Hello everyone and welcome back to coverage of Grand Prix São Paulo. I'm Caillou and today we're going to be watching a round 1 match between Para, who is playing green-red Ponza, and Reuben, otherwise known as Doombringer, who is playing Bant Flash. So both these players are experienced pilots of their decks in their own right. Para has been running Ponza for I think the past 3 GPs. Reuben has run Bant Flash in I think 3 GPs, and actually has a GP win, which is why actually Angel of Sucor has this fancy champion promo over here. So we're a few a few turns in. Looks like Reuben out of body experienced this mana ascetic, and so far is a little mana starved. Yeah, he's gonna eat the wild germination on the island that cuts Reuben completely off blue, which means his Cane Dancer is dead. Reuben's only real interaction is out of body experience, which can't actually kill the elemental, funnily enough. Acrianos' command would be cool, but Reuben needs that third land, and Bant Command and Angel of Sucor are just no-goes right now. And if Para manages to just go Regal Ignition, I think that just ends the game. The only reason not to Regal Ignition right now, obviously, is because your one win con is your tiny little elemental, and as long as Reuben can't answer that, you're pretty chilling. And yeah, Reuben just top decking another out of body experience. Again, it's one of the best removal spells in the format, as you can see. Like 1 mana, instant, exile anything, pretty great. But when the thing that you want to exile is the token that it makes, suddenly things become a lot more problematic. Oh, and Sangjin just ups the clock here. And you can just steal away one of Reuben's fetches. Does Para have? Yeah, Para doesn't have a fetch of their own, but Sangjin is a powerful card because you can grab any lands in any graveyard. And then you can just, since obviously Para's running a bunch of green lands, you can just fetch up one of your own. On end, Reuben is going to Cane Dancer back the Reconsider to draw a card. And yep, Reconsider, a Modal, Quench, or Cantrip, really useful to just cycle in situations like this. And the Cane Dancer can't block the elemental, obviously, because it has flying, but at least it's a body on the board, I guess. Oh, hasn't. It drew into another Cane Dancer off the natural draw and has a Wayfarer Shrine. This is really good because now you can fetch up planes, have access to Acrianos' command. I don't think that... Yeah, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5... Yeah, actually, Para will have enough mana to pay for a Cane Dancer Reconsider on Regal Ignition. Like, if Para just wants to say, screw it, I'm gonna just put you off all your lands, can definitely do that next turn with mana to spare. They're in a good position either way, though, with Reuben being on kind of a really tight clock here. It's just shy of 3 turns, and if Para gets like a single other creature, it becomes 3 turns. Okay, Reuben's gonna probably just run out the Acrianos' command here. Just exile the elemental, make 2 1/1s, and trade with the Sangjin. At which point, I think it would be entirely fair for Para to just run out the Regal Ignition. Because that just, like, at that point, both of your win cons on board are gone, so you're just free to kill Reuben's and just essentially Armageddon him. Unless Reuben, of course, wants to leave the Sangjin around, but then I don't think there's any reason to do that, especially when that would put you up on board. Yeah. So, essentially just uses Acrianos as a 2-for-1 right here. Yeah, I mean, if I'm just do it. Just Regal Ignition. Like, what are you afraid of? Which, like, that came off a little bit more aggressive. I don't think Para's afraid of anything, but, like, I think it's just, like, I'm just, like, so impatient because I'm like, yes, the carnage. It arrives. And yep, here comes Regal Ignition. Actually can't cast it with that mana. So yeah, Para's out of relevant cards, but has 4 mana. Meanwhile, Reuben, I was about to say has 0 lands, but now has a Sedate Tundra. And again, like if Reuben draws a second land, he very much still in this game, because like Cane Dancer is not awful, and then you have double out of body experience, but out of body it's actually not that great. Rogar's Frenzy is a great top deck from Para. I actually think you just Rogar's Frenzy them on face now. Or I guess the idea is, like, if they top deck a land, actually you just kill a creature. I don't know. I feel like you just Rogar's Frenzy face, I guess the timing doesn't matter, but if they draw a land, you don't want them to be able to drop a land and counter you. So yeah, on end, you can Rogar's Frenzy, hit Reuben in the face for 3, and then immediately exile it from your graveyard to make tokens. Okay, so Para is hilariously kind of flooding out, but I don't think that it matters because these elementals put enough of a beating that Reuben's technically on a 3-turn clock. The reason I say that is because Reuben's only land right now is a Sedate Tundra, so even if, like, and yeah, just draws another 4-drop, that's not where you want to be here. And, like, Reuben needs to draw a land and an out, because what is your out here? Like realistically, like, what do you use to kill these elementals? Like, actually, I guess another land would give you access to Cane Dancer, which can block on the ground and survive. Okay, and Reuben just ends up conceding there. And yeah, that was just, I think the main thing was Regal Ignition being effectively a 3-for-1 is just so backbreaking. And like, I think the thing is, unlike traditional tempo decks, Reuben's Bant Flash, it has that top end of like Angel of Succor and Bant Command. And that can put you in a bad situation against a deck which is like heavily taxing your mana if you just keep drawing those. Also, like, seeing the drawback of out of body experience where it's like, well, it doesn't matter if you're like, none of my creatures are high impact, they're just there to be creatures, right? So if you exile them, it's like, well, I still have board presence, and therefore I'm beating your face in, and I'm winning. So Reuben does have the interaction to stop Para's game plan, especially since Para like relies so heavily on ramp. Reuben can tax early ramp spells and then just kind of get under what Para is doing, and just kind of like be like, okay, Para, you can kill like 1 or 2 of my lands, and then I just kill you. But I think Ponza has always been an archetype that's been uniquely positioned to kind of just mess up control or control adjacent lists. And so this is not a surprise. What could be a surprise is what these players bring from the sideboards. So let's check that out real quick. On Para's end, Meteor Volley is for aggro, Stand Assailable is also for aggro, Collapse the Pillars is not for this matchup, I think. Scorch could be for cheap creatures. I think you might just keep the main the same. Like, unless I'm missing something, I think that pretty much all of Para's tools from the side are just not for this matchup. So, meanwhile on Reuben's end, probably some more cheap counter magics appreciated in the form of Still the Pandemonium. Do you bring in Wilt to be able to kill the 1-mana land auras? I don't know. That could be a play. But I think Still the Pandemonium for sure, maybe Wilt. That's my call on sideboarding there. Looks like Reuben brought in Nocturnal's Informant. That's interesting. I mean, at 3 mana, I feel like it's a little bit weird, but I guess the idea is the card advantage it provides is insane, and you can flicker it to protect it from like wipes to give yourself board presence. It's just a good card in general if they don't play to the board super heavily. It looks like Para had to mull to 5, which is super unfortunate. They will get a bunch of ramp though. They get like you do turn 1 Forest mana ascetic. Next turn you can do Primal Resurgence on the Forest. Impulsive Plan, or maybe, okay, Para brought in Scorch, but yeah, I think then you can Impulsive Plan to just exile 2 cards and then see where you go from there, or I think maybe just keep the current loadout. It's not awful. It's a little bit like shaky in terms of like what your core game plan is, but I think it can just mess up Reuben if given the opportunity to stick around. Reuben kept the 2-lander, which I think is really bold. You do have Bounty of the Gardens with the ability to Cane Dancer it back, which is quite strong. But again, Bounty of the Gardens depends on you having lands. So, Regal Ignition from Para. You're going to cycle the Promethean Grotto. Draws into a Wayfarer's Shrine. Immediately going to play that, and then probably find a mountain. Yeah, okay. And then with the mountain, Impulsive Plan. Yeah, I could see Impulsive Plan. Yeah, okay. Impulsive Plan. Exile the Regal Ignition and Scorch. The Regal Ignition I think is powerful, but you probably want single target land grab, probably. Like Imperial Siege or like a Wild Germination would actually be insane. And right as I say it, there's the Wild Germination. You can just steal away that Shifting Glade. On end, gonna run out the Bounty of the Gardens, which 2/2 plant is quite scary, and then it's gonna quickly become 5 power on board. Para does have the oh no, doesn't no longer has a Regal Ignition. Never mind, I forgot. That actually makes this board position a lot harder to navigate. Because Witch Queens is unplayable, Rogar's Frenzy is fine, but can only really answer one of the threats. And Wild Germination, I think, is just a turn too slow, as crazy as that sounds. Sounds crazy to say turn 3 grabbing an opponent's land is too slow, but yeah. And Reuben still has not hit another land, but top deck's a Portal Fracture, and that is maybe the best top deck I've seen this tournament. Because now it allows Reuben to counter Wild Germination and also have it as a Cane Dancer target as further interaction. So this is just really backbreaking. Wait, so did Para just pass? Para drew a card and passed and didn't even try to go for the Wild Germination? That surprises me. I guess holding out for drawing another land, maybe? Okay, while Reuben's tapped out, gets to Rogar's Frenzy, kill one of the plants. Not awful, especially since Para also has the mana to make the 1/1 tokens, which can then trade with the second plant, and then Reuben's left with a 1/2 as his only clock, which emphatically loses to like Witch Queens. So I guess the main problem is obviously resolving Witch Queens, which I think that now that Reuben is essentially if you're Para, you want to try and Wild Germination this Monument of Queens, I think. Even more so than cutting Reuben off green. Which might be a little bit greedy of a play, but I would oh my god, did Reuben just top deck another Portal Fracture, or am I missing something? Oh no, Reuben just didn't play the Portal Fracture last turn. Right. Never mind. So he still has a Portal Fracture for the Wild Germination. Unless, if Para top decks a land, can play Wild Germination and then just steal Monument of Queens for free, and then next turn play Witch Queens. And then I think the Witch Queens will still be counterable by Portal Fracture at that point. Okay, on end, Para gonna Rogar's Frenzy. I do think an annoying part here is that Reuben just got the mana to be able to Nocturnal's Informant, but now these elementals really just put the damper on anything that Nocturnal's Informant can do, because they just cleanly block it. By the way, I forgot Para doesn't even have to draw a land, has Promethean Grotto and Grave, which they cycled earlier. So now, has 6 mana. They could get greedy and run out Witch Queens, but I really think that Wild Germination is a safe and smart play here. And looks like they agree, Wild Germination on the Shifting Glade and not the Monument of Queens. I guess it makes sense if you expect Reuben to never be able to activate Monument of Queens. But I think the thing is that Para's forgetting is Para can activate Monument of Queens, and it's just a really good win con. And I think that's worth more than cutting Reuben off of green at this point, because what is green giving Reuben right now? Essentially just Bounty of the Gardens, which Monument of Queens can outpace. So I think that not grabbing the Monument of Queens is a bit of a mistake. Okay, Reuben gonna play Nocturnal's Informant. I actually don't think that this is worth it. I guess it's worth it in the sense that like. Actually, you play it here because otherwise you just don't have the mana anymore to be able to play it otherwise. But I don't think it's worth it in the sense that, like, well, it doesn't actually matter that much because Para just keeps back the Elemental to be able to block. It means that Para can't double block a plant and kill it, but it doesn't matter because if Reuben ever taps out or doesn't, Reuben top decks a Wayfarer Shrine, so it's actually still quite in this game. Doesn't have Acrianos' command mana though, which is very relevant. But still has Portal Fracture mana up, which means that... but Para actually... Para will have enough mana to outpace Portal Fracture, so can play Witch Queens next turn. And then I think that you just kill Cane Dancer and the plant, and then you can start stealing lands the next turn. Or maybe you just steal Monument. Maybe that's when you just steal Monument of Queens and call it a day. Okay, Para double blocking with the Elementals. I think that's a big, big mistake. You want to keep the Elementals around for Nocturnal's Informant because you can't really traditionally answer it. And it's a real pain in your side now. Even if you untap and you Witch Queens and you point something at it. In fact, okay, it's up to 2 targets, so it doesn't actually matter. But yeah, I was going to say, I just don't think that this... I think that you just... taking 2 there is entirely fine, especially since you're going to come back and kill it. So I think that was actually a big mistake from Para. Like, just not evaluating the Nocturnal's Informant properly. Okay, gonna play the Witch Queens. Reuben can't counter this because Para has more than enough mana off of the Mountain / Shifting Glade to be able to pay for the Portal Fracture. Okay, yeah, and it's gonna plus up to 8, targeting Nocturnal's Informant and the Cane Dancer. Reuben probably just discards, I think if I'm Reuben... do I discard Angel of Sucor? Maybe, actually, maybe not. maybe Acreonos' command. Actually, yeah, I can see discarding Acreonos' command to protect Nocturnal's Informant right here. And yeah, and this is the reason why you don't double block, because now Nocturnal's Informant comes back, can punch Para in the face and try to draw Reuben out of this. Like, I think it's hard to overstate how big of a mistake it was for Para to double block there. It seems like an innocuous decision at first, but I think it's a decision that could, and I'm not overstating this, I think that single decision could lose Para this entire game, depending on how things go. Okay, Reuben draws another Angel of Succor, does not hit that crucial fourth land. And then I think if you're Para, next turn what you do is you -3 grab Monument of Queens, you have enough mana to activate Monument of Queens, you can then just threaten to block Nocturnal's Informant with Monument of Queens, is the truth of it, essentially. Of course, then it probably... Oh no, did Reuben? Reuben discarded Out of Body Experience, which means that Reuben actually no longer has an answer to Monument of Queens on the defensive. Oh, that's actually really scary. Okay, on end, Para is going to cycle the Promethean Grotto. Wild Germination, not needed, but pretty nice nonetheless. It does let you not have to minus the Witch Queens, which is always appreciated. Okay, you're going to +2 Witch Queens again. Face and Nocturnal's Informant. Reuben at this point probably just discards an Angel of Succor. It's free. Okay, and then you run out the Wild Germination on the Monument of Queens, for sure. I think if Para runs it out on the island, that is a tremendous punt. Okay, yeah, grabs a Monument of Queens, and now can activate it on the defensive to stop Nocturnal's Informant from drawing more cards. Ooh, actually, smart play from Reuben. Taps it for mana in response, so Para can't do that this turn. That is also why Witch Queens -3 would have actually been a better choice, because it explicitly untaps the land. So, actually a little bit of a mistake from Para there that I didn't recognize at first, because that would have prevented Nocturnal's Informant from actually being online again. Reuben still doesn't hit a land. Reconsider is good as just like a cycle target, honestly. And Nocturnal's is not bad. It's a 3-turn clock from here on out. So, okay, Para is just gonna chump with the mana ascetic. I forgot. Yeah, that is valid. And it's gonna tap it for mana and then tap 3 lands. Just gonna buff up the Monument of Queens. And then next turn, I think if you're Para, you -3, grab the island, and I think that's probably just the end of the game. Because Reuben at that point has 1 mana, can't pay for anything, unless Reuben, like, even if Reuben top decks a land, you cycle Reconsider and then you can't really play anything else. Yeah. And yeah, Reuben concedes. And I think, yeah, that was just... Even after the multiply from Para, I think it just came down to Reuben desperately needed land resources and just couldn't find his footing there. And Para actually had a lot of ramp to have the tempo in in a matchup where Reuben's deck is all about amassing tempo. So yeah, good games to both players. And until next time, this is Caillou signing off. See you next time.